Chris? Who was the referee?
The referee was a chorus.
Okay. Younger guy?
Lindsay.
So I didn't recognize. Maybe.
The son.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, friends. Welcome here to UU Mount Airy. I'm Reverend McKinley Sims. I use he, him pronouns. It's so good to see some of you for the first time since I've been back from sabbatical. I am so grateful to be the settled minister here of this congregation. So if this is your first time, we welcome you. We are so glad that you found your way here. If you are looking for a place that lifts up progressive values, that values community, and that puts love at the center of all that we do, you are in the right place. And we are gathered here together here in this historic sanctuary that is home to the Universalist Church of the Restoration. This congregation is more than 200 years old, but now we go by the name UUs of Mount Airy, and we've been here in Mount Airy since 1938. And we are so pleased to call this place home, and we welcome you here. Friends who are joining us online, if you need some help with the closed captions, please do so. When we do joys and sorrows, if you want to use the chat function to let us know how you are doing, we will read those out here in the sanctuary, and we look forward to seeing you whenever we can here in person. I am so pleased to co-lead our service today with Rita Fitzgerald, who will be offering a reflection. We have music from Joe Kinney on the piano, from Nate Berge and the Restoration Singers Choir. We got a lot of good stuff with us today. We will have a story for all ages for our little ones towards the beginning of the service, and then we invite them downstairs with Miss Elizabeth Ann Terry, our Director of Religious Exploration, up here in the beautiful hat. We have lots going on today as well. I've been on sabbatical for a few months, and I'm doing a little show and tell afterwards here in the sanctuary. So if you want to know more about what I've been up to, it's not very long. It's just a few pictures and telling you kind of what I've been studying and working on for the past few months while we've been here building beloved community. So we want to continue that today. And usually we start with just centering ourselves here in the sanctuary. I'm going to invite you to turn your cell phones off if you have one. Put it on silent if you have a beeper or a fax machine that will make noise. You can put that on silent. Settle into your pews if you're here in the sanctuary. If you're at home, find your feet flat on the floor, on your couch or chair. Maybe roll your shoulders out a little bit, gently move your neck. And we're going to start with a nice few easy breaths together. Let's take a breath in and out. Let's do one more together. In and out. Thank you, friends. It is good to be together. This is a UU community, which means that we are people of differences. We come from different faith traditions. We grew up in different places. We have different ways of moving in the world. We love different kinds of people with different kinds of bodies. And we are people of togetherness who make a covenant or a sacred promise of how to be together under one roof. When you combine all of that goodness here, we like to say that we are building beloved community by embracing all souls and nurturing wholeness. That's our goal for today. Today's service is about reimagining faith in a theological term that we use called a dumpster fire. So we're going to be talking about our UU heritage. We're going to be talking about something called Disrupt Church and talking about what it means to be a citizen in today's America and here in this community. We invite all of us to come into worship this morning with gratitude and with a little bit of love and light here at our centers. We're going to light a chalice to celebrate our coming together in love, to mark the sacredness of being together, and to start our official service. Can I get some little ones to come up and help me light the chalice? Rita Fitzgerald is going to read our chalice lighting words. And I would love, come on, some help lighting our chalice from some of our RE families. Rita, turn it over to you. Come on, little ones.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. opening story song is 1023, Building Bridges. Please rise in body or spirit. Please rise in body or in spirit and find the lyrics in the teal hymnal or on the screen behind me.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you to our round singers for making that into a round. Whew. It's been quite a morning here for me, if you've not been around. So let me get my bearings here. And this is one of the first times I've been doing more of these parts of services. So I'm still getting my sea legs under me. But we are doing something called the Joys and Sorrows ritual. Part of building beloved community to us is sharing the authentic and vulnerable parts of ourselves and our stories, what's going on in our lives. I like to say that church is where we come to practice being human, and part of doing that in this predominantly white, Western, industrialized culture is that we're not very good about sharing our emotions and sharing what's going on in our lives in authentic and vulnerable ways, right? When someone asks you, how are you doing? You say, I'm good, or fine. When there could be all kinds of things beneath that, right? As a question that we ask without much intention behind it. So let this be intentional. How are you doing? Take a second to check in with yourself. And if you would like to, we'll listen to some music, and you are invited to come up by this side aisle, grab a stone from the basket at the rear or here at the front of the sanctuary, and let this stone become infused with whatever it is you're holding, whatever it is you're feeling, whatever your humanness is today. It might be joy, it might be sorrow, it might be despair, it might be frustration, it might be hope, faith, love. Drop it into this bowl of water that symbolizes this community and how we hold one another through all of what it is to be alive in these times. And if there's something especially pressing that you would like to share with the congregation, I invite you to speak directly into this microphone and tell us your name, what you're feeling today, what's going on in your life. Please be aware that we are live streaming. It's not going to Times Square, but it is going to our website and to our friends who are on Zoom. So you're not just these folks in this room who will hear this. So if that's an issue, you're invited to stay seated, and we can bring a microphone to you if you would like. If coming up here at all feels a little too much, you can simply sit and listen to the music, and we'll take a moment to say a short prayer afterwards. Friends who are online, we invite you to share joys and sorrows through the Zoom chat function, and we will drop stones into the water on your behalf. Come, come, whoever you are, the table of joys and sorrows is open.
Good morning. I'm proud of everything of your sister who has cancer and we're thinking about her to make sure she's okay.
Thank you very much. Hi. Clarabelle is sending thoughts and prayers to my sister who is battling stage 4 colon cancer. So thank you for keeping her in your thoughts. We're thinking about Janice's mom this time of year as everything's in blossom, and with yesterday's derby, that was a big ritual for her. I'm sorry, did I forget something?
Tell us his name.
Oh, I'm Alan Radway. This is Janice Radway. And who are you?
I'm Grandma Mother's Nasibo, and I love you, and thank you. Say that with love.
Okay, sending our love.
And just a quick shout out to the friends and family of Jill Sobule. She was an amazing singer-songwriter. She hugely influenced me in my songwriting. She was a sweetheart. I met her 25 years ago after college. I just met her last year. And she died in a house fire, tragically. So I know, way too young. So anyway, sending love to her too.
My name is Barbara. I'm sending this stone with love and wishes for light, and I know you will share it. Those of you that know Don and Susie Zippin, Don is now on home hospice, so may they be able to do the days ahead. With love.
My name is Lila. I have a few joys. This Thursday, I had the opportunity to retake my Pennsylvania attorney oath alongside 400 attorneys in Philadelphia and I want to say 50 or 60 bar associations across the country, just restating that we will uphold the Constitution. And very important. So very honored to be able to do that. And then just little joys this week of time in nature with friends, really appreciated.
Good morning, I'm Annabelle, putting a stone in for my mother who was born on May 3rd, 1914. So this is an evocative time in May. The May apple's up and I always remember her. I want to lift up our hearts for Kathy Baxter. She is now able to walk again and she's been moved out of assisted living. And I want to remember Barbara Polish. We haven't seen her for a long time and I don't know what's happening with her, but we send our love to her for her recovery. And also, I had a nice conversation with Peter Johnstone, who is in very good spirits and sends his greetings. My last joy is that I'm in an improv dance group, and I discovered a talent I didn't know I have because I was singing in an improv way verses of a hymn. It wasn't a hymn anymore, it just became the words. And then I did a poem, and they loved it, and it worked, and it was a real joy for me to take a personal talent and bring it out, bring it forth.
Bernadette, so we're back from our month in Costa Rica, and it was really a gift. I can only feel so grateful for the wildlife and the beauty and the shift in energy. And it was huge for me. Many of you know I lost my phone on the way to the airport. And so I really had to detach in so many ways that I didn't expect to. And you know, it was such a great break for Gary after 9 months of chemo to have time off. And he went back on Friday. And when he was in the Pacific Ocean, he said he felt being healed and the magic of the place. So it was so great.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I just want to mention that May is Asian American, Asian Pacific, and Islanders and Hawaiian Month, and we are going to be sponsoring an Asian American organization with Change for Change this month as part of that. So I'm hoping that you'll all be interested in hearing more about that. And also Monday is Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Day, and they have the highest rate of murdered and missing women of any population that we have in the United States, and it's something that gets stuffed under a lot, and I hope that we'll also continue to hold them in our hearts.
Good morning, I'm Jill. Today is my 50th anniversary of doing transcendental meditation. I know it's hard to believe, 50 years. And anyone who is familiar with the practice or does the practice knows that we say Jai Guru Dev to thank the guru who brought TM to our world in the 70s. My other joy is that my son Jordan is just about to start his courses in cybersecurity. Unfortunately, it's much needed in our world, but I'm really excited for him.
Hi, I'm Emily, and my family and I, we live on Burnham Road across from where our dear Suzanne Weltman used to live, and last week we lit a candle for the anniversary of her moving on to the next phase, and I just thought she would be touched and you all would be touched to know that the couple that moved into her house, the baby may have been born, but the baby's due date was around the same time, and I just think she would be so delighted to know that a new life was being sheltered in the beautiful home that she helped create.
Elizabeth, would you mind dropping a few stones in for our folks who are online? Lifting up Sandy Fulton and all of the disruption that's going on in her housing. Thank you. And for all those joys and sorrows that are not spoken out loud but held in the quiet of our hearts. I'm going to read something called a lamentation for the first 100 days of this administration. This is written by the Side with Love campaign of the Unitarian Universalist Association, the UUA. This is the justice wing of our denomination, and they put out these words. Spirit of life, we gather with hearts broken open, souls aching by the weight of the world, by the wounds of history, by the cruel persistence of injustice. How long, O Spirit, must our bodies be made into battlegrounds? How long must the earth be sacrificed at the altar of profit? How long must we abide by an economy of disposability where Black, Indigenous, people of color, transgender, and disabled lives are traded for another's right to exist, another's claim of safety? How long must this world run on stolen labor, stolen land, and stolen lives for the sake of greed and the lie of supremacy? We lament the silence that has stretched too long, the complicity woven into our comforts, the slowness of our response when urgency was demanded. We grieve the gap between our values and our actions, between the pragmatic and the prophetic. Forgive us for the times we have turned away. Forgive us when we have mistaken quiet for peace and civility and decorum for justice. But let this lament not be the end. Let our sorrow carve space for resolve. Let our tears water the seeds of uprising. Let our faith rise from the ashes, not innocent, but braver, wiser, more centered in love. May we be a people who side with love. May we be a people who disrupt, who dismantle, and who dream. May we be a people who remember that we are always on the horizon of transformation. And there may we greet our collective liberation. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Let's take one more breath together, friends. Thank you. Invite Elizabeth Ann Terry forward to share more about our story for all ages, and invite our children of all ages forward to come and sit with me here on the carpet and listen to a book. And it's for children of all ages, sizes. 50 years old, 60 years old. If you're a child at heart, come on down. If you'd like to sit in your pew, that's also fine.
I'm Elizabeth Ann Terry. I'm your Director of Religious Exploration, and it's delightful to be here today. In this month, why does it feel like this is not me? Okay, in this month that we're discovering more and more and more about imagination. I know. There's going to be an opportunity for each of you to participate in this book. It's not just me reading it alone, and the book is Pete the Cat's Groovy Imagination. Can we do groovy? Okay, so that's going to come up many times in this book, Pete the Cat. Groovy Imagination by Kimberly and James Dean. Pete the Cat was happy. Today would be so much fun. Chilling out, catching vibes, sand surfing, and lots of sun. But when Pete looked outside, he got down in the dumps sad. He looked outside, and dark clouds and pouring rain could make this good day turn bad. Pete didn't complain. He did not feel blue. Pete knew he could find something fun to do. Pete drew a cool picture. Pete strummed a little tune on his guitar until he saw something too good to be true. He had a great idea. Pete found a big box. He looked it up and down. He turned it side to side, and he spun it all around. The box was brown, and it was strong. The box was wide and tall. Maybe this wasn't just any box after all. This box rocks. The box was big, and it was groovy. The box could be something new. Suddenly, Pete's imagination grew and grew and grew. Maybe it was more than a box. Maybe it was more than it seemed. Pete closed his eyes and had an out-of-this-world dream. It was more than a box. It was a groovy rocket ship. Pete saw the moon on his outer space trip. So we'll need to count down. You with me? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Pete was heading home. He landed splash in the sea. Pete had to think fast. Now, what could this box be? The box was big and it was groovy. The box could be something new. Suddenly, Pete's imagination grew and grew and grew. The box was now a yellow submarine. Pete dived way down into the sea. Pete wore his goggles to see the underwater scene. The submarine crashed. When it reached land, now the box was lying sideways in the sand. But what's a cat to do with a box that couldn't stand? The box was big and groovy. The box could be something new. Suddenly, Pete's imagination grew and grew and grew. And pretty soon, the box was not just a box lying on its side. It was a cool cat race car, revving for a fast, fast ride. Vroom, 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 zoom, zoom, zoom. Pete was the race. Whoops, I'm reading this. Pete won the race just like that. Then splat. The race car was flat. What's going to happen? Wow, now what good is a box that looks like a mat? The box was big and it was groovy. The box could be something new. Suddenly, Pete's imagination grew and grew and grew. Even though a flat box was not in the plan, Pete imagined it was a stage for his jammin' rock band. Sometimes our plans just don't go right. But doesn't mean that the day can't be out of sight. If you use your imagination, you will see just how groovy your day can be. When you want to dream of something new, thinking outside the box is the grooviest thing to do. Look at that, all the different things that Pete made out of the box. Groovy!
All right, my friends, we invite you to get your groovy imaginations on downstairs in your religious exploration class. So we're going to sing you a song, and you can follow Miss Jill and Miss Elizabeth Ann downstairs. Friends, if you know the words or the tune to the words that are on the screen, please sing along. Thank you, friends. We are going to take our offering here in the sanctuary. There's a passing of the plate that happens. If this is your first time with us, there is no expectation that you give anything into the plate, other than, if you're willing, one of the contact cards that is in the pews in front of you to let us know who you are and how you found us and how we might support you. Anything you put into the plate that is paper money goes toward, or checks, goes towards the operating fund of this congregation. Any pocket change and anything you put into the white envelopes that you can mark change for change goes towards a different social justice organization each month. As Sharon mentioned, The Change for Change for May is the Asian American Community Fund of Pennsylvania, which supports local Asian American associations and organizations to bring people together to do work that none of us could do alone. And we will be hearing from their CEO or director next week. So I invite you to come back next week and hear from the leader of the Asian American Community Fund. More info on how to give online is on the screen behind me, and more info about AACFPA. And we also know that there are lots of ways to give back, and giving of monies is just one of them. So we're going to do that now. And if you have other ways to give back, please let us know how you would like to do that after the service. Thank you. The offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you. Friends, can we have a hand for Joe Kenny on the piano? This is so lovely. Thank you, Joe. All right. Invite Rita Fitzgerald forward to share her reflection and all the wisdom that she possesses with us. Rita's going to give us the answers today. Thank you, Rita.
No, just a lot more questions. You know, the service this morning is about faith, specifically the loss of faith in these troubling times. I'm sorry. All right. The service this morning is about faith, specifically the loss of faith in these times. When it seems like America is imploding, and when we feel that we're watching a dumpster fire burn out of control, what will catch fire next? Where will it spread? What will be destroyed or hobbled or attacked? The outrage, the uncertainty, the hopelessness. Why doesn't somebody do something? Who's in charge to stop this? Where are our elected representatives? Stop him. So like everybody else, I was in shock. And I'm not going to just always talk all about this, but I am an emotional person. I can't help it, and this has really got me down for the last few months. Wasn't supposed to happen. Day after the election, I sent out a text. Woke up this morning and found my country had become a banana republic, you know, the kind of place that it's autocratic. Nobody really expects democracy. And the first time it happened, maybe that was a fluke. But the second time, I felt it was an indictment of the American people. And that was a loss of faith. So it was during the planning sessions with McKinley about having faith. And I'll just say this as an aside, one of the reasons I'm a worship associate, one of the reasons I love this church is that you really get to talk about things, to think things through, to ask questions, and this was one of those times. We had several discussions, and it was about what has caused Americans to lose faith. Is there anything still to have faith in? And he said, are you losing faith in the church, American exceptionalism, the myth of American progress, process itself, democracy, etc. What gives you faith? And did you lose faith in the church as an institution? I said, probably in a moment of, no, I lost faith in the American people, really, as of November 2024. More than the system, I felt, or any other reason, democracy can only work properly if there's a reasonably informed electorate. Reasonably informed electorate. That's always been the assumption. That are trying to be good citizens, that are trying to get the right information, and setting the bar really low. They don't have to know everything, just maybe things that, concern them. But what we have now is, what we had is uninformed voters, or misinformed, where the lack of knowledge about a particular, not just lack of knowledge about a particular issue, but just the inability to really think critically, to consider the basic pros and cons of an issue, or where a candidate really stands on an issue. How can you tell if somebody's lying? How can you check? Where to find? That's hard. Reasonable, reliable, factual, and accessible information with as low of a bias slant as you can. That's kind of very hard. But then I said, well, it hadn't happened twice in a row. They elected an already disgraced candidate. This is what got me. They chose to be ignorant. They chose to disregard the evidence twice, the same stupid way people chose to ignore the deadly threat of COVID. So there can be the best process, the best system in place, but if the people voting just don't get it, don't recognize it, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm talking about Americans now. And it certainly cancels out any notion that Americans are exceptional. Nobody but a few MAGA knuckleheads believe that anymore. You know what I feel like, and I always wondered, what it would be like to live during a wartime where the war was in your country. Except for the Civil War, the wars we've been involved in have been overseas. People overseas have felt it, but this feels personal. This is different. What might I still have faith in? McKinley kept asking me, and I said, I don't know, nothing. I need to think about it. And he asked me when I lost faith. And I said, actually, it started a while ago. This just culminated. It started the last 20 or 30 years when I just became alarmed at how uninformed or misinformed voters were, across the political spectrum, too. I mean, when I used to watch these shows where they go out around election time, interviewing people about very basic concepts, and the level of ignorance, even among people who were supposed to be, I guess, more educated, was wow. Because I think Americans are not taught, if they ever were, they're not taught to be good citizens, to be discerning. You know, civics is like something not even taught anymore. They try to sort of weave it into social studies. And I know social studies teachers would love to focus more time on the idea of critical thinking. But, you know, it just doesn't get funding, just doesn't get, you know, they fit all this other stuff in it, like sports. But it is, why don't we teach it? Just asking the right questions, using basic reason and logic. You don't have to be highly educated. Looking for reliable sources of information, being discerning. You know what they found out? It's really interesting, that people in their own occupation, they do exercise reason and logic, and they are discerning. But when it comes to the big issues, man, you've heard of it. I mean, I can tell you I've worked for registration in a number of elections, and some of the reasons that people gave me for voting or not voting for people were like, I don't even want to waste time talking about it, but they were really off the wall. I just had noticed this, and it's gotten a lot worse. So just in the last few elections, it's not just the rise of the uninformed voter. I don't know which a lot of people are uninformed about. I'm uninformed about most subjects. I mean, how can you be? The uninformed voter, but the misinformed voter, the one that thinks they know the answer, but it's wrong. It's just, and they think their opinion is equal to fact, established fact. You know, I said to one person one time, well, do you believe in gravity? I mean, she actually said, yeah, I guess that's, you know, I guess there's no distinction made between something from the National Institutes of Health and something somebody wrote online, you know. But they're mistaken. Why? They get it from unreliable sources. They distrust conventional sources. There's a proliferation of, you know, alternative sources. So first, before you even try to educate the voter, they have to be disabused of all the wrong facts they've heard of and they think of, and, you know, and so you get people who disregard something that, you know, Dr. Fauci says so they can take, horse tranquilizer? Unbelievable. So here's the thing. I think, and McKinley is going to address this in a slightly different way, but I think critical thinking, I'm not talking about critical race theory, that's a different topic, but the idea of thinking critically is really, really deficit in the United States. I don't know, it's just, people just, they don't apply to the big issues. I don't know why. The need is great. I looked up where this, you know, turns out they know it in education, but, you know, it's the funding. Social studies education is more about naming who the presidents were, et cetera, but 97% of social studies teachers said that critical thinking is one of the top goals of education, one of the worst, one of the most needed things to pay attention to. Higher order thinking skills such as making connections and inferences, evaluating sources, drawing conclusions, forming opinions, they're key not only in classroom but in the voting booth. And it's not what to think, it's not about content we're talking about, it's more like how to think logically and with reason, and not rhetoric. We're not preparing people to go on firing line, but just dissecting something that somebody says, not taking things at face value, comparing, that kind of thing. Questioning the authenticity and reliability of data. So I guess, what can UUs do about it? Why did it happen? So many theories. You know, just the proliferation of sources. I don't know. I'm going to leave with my theory, my idea of what can be done. I think not just getting information, but really encouraging the resurrection of this lost skill that is so important in schools. I mean, just not what to think, and not how to dissect, how to make a decision that impacts everybody. Because look, we're looking at the effects of it right now. There's nothing soft issue about that. McKinley wants to talk about the disrupt church model, which posits, I don't want to take it, going from the subject, okay, like an autocracy, you receive the knowledge, to the consumerist model now, and UUs love to be consumerists, you know, you pick and choose, it's very independent, you know, to kind of morphing a little bit more over from that very hard-held policy to the citizen mode, interdependent, where we work in collaboration with others, not just, independently picking for ourselves. I just told him I'm not sure that would be the easiest sell with UUs, but, we'll see. So,
Give us
I'm
your
gonna
final
leave
thought,
that-
Rita. Yeah, go for it.
I'm done. Okay. How do we survive as a country? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Invite Nate Berge and our choir forward to offer our special music. Thank you, choir. So how old were you when you first had your heart broken? Do you remember this? Was it on the playground when a boy ran away from you, or when a girl pushed you over in the sandbox, which is what happened to me? Was it from a first crush who turns out that they liked your best friend instead of you? Was it realizing that your dad was not Superman, that your parents were just people? Was it when America failed to keep her promise of being the greatest nation on the earth, the land of the free, and the home of the brave? There are lots of kinds of heartbreak in the world. One of my colleagues, in her message to new members of her congregation, says that it is only a matter of time. It is when, not if, this congregation breaks your heart, because we are made of imperfect people. So you need to decide now what you will do when that happens. Will you stick around and let grace work its magic? Or will you look for another place to find home? Either is a fine choice, but you need to decide now. Because heartbreak is what it is to be human. Getting your heart broken, losing your faith in someone or something, that is what it is to be alive. The loss of faith and the heartbrokenness that has happened from organized religion has been going on for a long, long time, for at least the past 60 years. But for our purposes today, I'm most interested in the last 10 to 15 years. My colleague Peggy Clark, who is at the Community Church of New York City, started this program called Disrupt Church. She wrote this: across the country, UU churches have seen a dramatic reduction in membership. We've lost 18,000 children in our RE programs over the last 10 years. We've lost 100,000 members over the last 50 years. In 2020, the average size of a UU congregation was half the size of 20 years earlier. She said, we're getting older, grayer, smaller, and less relevant. Them's the facts. But that trend has turned around a little bit in just the last few years. And we'll see what continues to happen in this new theological term, dumpster fire, that we find ourselves in now. Because it's not a matter of if, but when our hearts continue to be broken, our faith shaken and lost, right? Not just in people, but in the institution, perhaps, of America, or the institution of church, of organized religion. Whenever you put your faith in people, we're bound to let you down. So here we are, 2.5 administrations, it feels like, a pandemic later from when Peggy Clark wrote those words about the state of Unitarian Universalism. And how are we feeling? To lose faith in the institutions that are supposed to protect us, supposed to empower us, so as to give us comfort. And if our UU's values are to be believed, and speaking for myself, those institutions that were supposed to keep us progressing as a society, onward and upward forever, as the great UU thinker James Freeman Clark once said. That was the promise of liberal religion, human progress onward and upward forever. But here we live in a time of brokenness, broken hearts, broken government, broken social media, broken relationships across families, broken ceasefire treaties in Palestine, broken campaign finance rules, broken education funding, broken gun laws, broken dreams. Do other people feel like you've lost faith in the institution of America right now? Does that resonate with other people? So here's the question. When did those people who I have called uninformed, misinformed, wrong-headed, wrong, when did those people lose faith in America? When did they lose faith in the institutions and the dream of America for them? When did they become brokenhearted enough to choose this? The loss of faith in institutions that parallels the rise of authoritarianism with the decline in liberal church membership seems to be almost a perfect line together. I thought I was the only one who'd ever thought of this, and I was really excited about that until I read Peggy Clark's words that says that exact same thing. Peggy Clark and Jill Novinsky, who is the religious educator at Community Church, had the same insight. He said that when we come to UU communities, often we have lost faith in perhaps the organized religion of our upbringing, right? We may have replaced the vocabulary of God with a capital G for something bigger, right? For community, for something along those lines. That we put our faith in something else from the faith of our youth. But we still have high expectations for that higher power. Even if we have stopped believing in a God, a supernatural God, when we come to communities, we still have high expectations of our community, with a capital C perhaps, our church with a capital C. But it is only a matter of time before a congregation lets you down. And what happens when you're let down? Do you stick around and let grace do its thing, or do you find a new place to call home? Right? These are the choices that we could make, especially here in America. So Peggy Clark and Jill Novinsky, they noticed that that was happening in their community, and they started doing this research. And Peggy came across this book by Jason Alexander, not that Jason Alexander. He wrote a book called Citizen, and he said that society has moved through this shift, that originally the kind of relationships and community we had were subject models, where there was a king and the subjects, and the king told you what to do and what to think and kept you safe, but you had no choices. And then in the mid-20th century, give or take, maybe even earlier than that, but especially in the mid-20th century, especially in the white Western world, we developed this consumerism model, right? Where it's about individuals and individual choices post-Enlightenment, that you get to choose your own destiny, your own future, your own church or congregation, your own religion, right? It's what UUism is, right? It's bringing your individuality into a community. We moved into this consumerism model. We try to take that power back for yourself, right? We talk about church in consumer language. People go church shopping. We talk about fiduciary responsibility, using our pledge dollars as votes of confidence in the minister or not, right? We talk about being come to be fed by the words of the minister, being nurtured or nourished in the congregation, right? It's very much a receiving thing, right? Which could be viewed as transactional if we make that choice. The third model, after subject and consumer, is what Alexander calls citizens. It's what Peggy Clark and Jill Novinsky are offering up to UUs and to America to think about, to move to a citizen model of being in community, where it is not just about what you get or receive, but it's about who you are and what you take and give back, not just in the four walls of your community, but out in the world, right? To radically alter the nature of what it is to be a member of a congregation, to be a member of the United States, right? That if we viewed ourselves as citizens, people who were not just independent, but who were interdependent. If we were known by the company we keep, she says, our interdependence, our intradependence on one another for common flourishing and thriving, it would change the choices that we make, right? It would change our individual choices, and it might change how you think about religious organizations. So she started this model called Disrupt Church because she said the consumer model is not working for us. Not only is it not working for us, it's killing us, and it's killing the planet. She's very strong language. She said it's making us unhealthy to think that we are independent, that we should just choose for ourselves what caters to what we kind of want, right? That being interdependent, part of a community, rather than church being a place you go to, church being something you do together, that's a healthier lifestyle, physically, mentally. She says consumerism is killing us. So she started this model called Disrupt Church. When she says church, she means kind of old white Protestant church, right? So it's time to use some imagination. What could Unitarian Universalism be? What could this institution look like if we invested modeling being citizens, people who value interdependence, who don't try to go it alone, thinking of church as not something you go to or leave from, but something you do, something you are. thinking of our pledged dollars not as commitments to a minister or to an institution, but investment in ourselves, in our community, right? For communal thriving. Moving from dependent subjects to independent consumers, citizens are interdependent. Citizens build networks, share ideas, move information freely to empower the whole. Citizens create collectives. The citizen story moves us from being passive subjects being told what to do, or isolated individuals thinking only of ourselves, to being partnered collaborators, working for the good of the whole. The subject model was about a vassal relationship. The consumer model, is about a contract. I give you this and you give me this, and if I don't like it, I'm out of here. To the covenant model, which says, I know my heart is going to be broken, but I'm pledging to stay and come back to the table because I believe in us and I need you to survive. I need us to survive. I know myself to be an interdependent person. That's a reimagining, I think, right? That's a reimagining. Some of these things we do here at UU Mount Airy, some of these things we're still working on. But this is the thing about institutions that doesn't work so well with your first crush, for example. When you have your heart broken and you lose faith in someone, can't always undo that hurt. But as a collective, you can. You can reimagine things. You can restructure things. You can restore things. You can regain faith. Ask your liberal Catholic friends what it has been like for the past 10 years for them if they left and then had Pope Francis come into their lives. There are many stories of what it means to reimagine institutions. They always take hard work. They always take vulnerability. They always take time, and they always take trust. They take an investment of resources, not just from my wallet, but also from my heart. When we talk about putting love at the center of all that we do, sometimes that involves giving something of yourself. It's not just taking the love that's at the center. Sometimes it involves giving too. And that can be hard when we're tired, when we look around at this, again, theological term, dumpster fire. But to have faith in this time, to have progressive faith, to be part of organized religion, in this dwindling, graying, aging, less relevant denomination, the lament does not have to end there. We could reimagine that things are not unrelated, that the decline in liberal religion is not the only reason that we have a dictator fundamentalist. It's part of the story. And that also means that's part of the story that we can help rewrite. So here's what I want to argue. That practicing a citizenship model, doesn't matter what vocabulary you use, for me it comes down to this. What will you do when your heart gets broken? Will you make the very rational, reasonable choice to leave and never come back, which is totally understandable and totally valid? Or do we make a harder choice, perhaps a braver choice, and what I think is ultimately the more healthy choice, the more healing choice, the more liberating choice, to say, no, I'm going to come back to the table because I believe in this. I believe in us. I believe in putting love at the center of all that we do, right? You don't have to believe in me. You don't have to believe in Rita. You have to believe in Elizabeth Ann. But you do have to believe. That's what faith is. And my favorite definition of faith is not just believing in something that you can't see. For me, faith is about staying in relationship with something, even when it breaks your heart. So if you're here, if you are hearing these words, if you're brave and taking a chance to have faith in this institution and these people in this community, I invite you to join me in having that faith. Because I think if we all modeled that, of being honest about our heartbreaks and trying to reimagine something together and sharing that message outside of these four walls, we may not be able to change the whole world, but we could start. Because that's what church looks like to me. And I don't know how else to do it. And I know I can't do it alone. So I'm so glad to have a few wild-eyed, starry-eyed dreamers reimagining faith with me here. This beautiful, broken dumpster fire of a world. May it be so. Amen. It's come time to end our service together this morning. We're going to extinguish our chalice, sing a closing hymn, invite folks downstairs afterwards for coffee hour. If you want to get something to drink and then come back up, I'm going to do my presentation up here. So if you need to use the bathroom or something right after service, please do so. If you just want to stay here in the sanctuary and listen to the sabbatical show and tell, I invite you to do that. Friends online, we're going to keep Zoom open as long as we can, so you'll be able to see it as well. We're going to extinguish our chalice with words from the Reverend Peggy Clark and Disrupt Church. I invite you to read them along with me. By putting love at the center of everything, churches are the manifestation of collaborative living, the embodiment of joy through power sharing, compassion, and collective imagination. May it be so. Our closing hymn is number 1020, Wo Ya Ya. It's in the teal hymnal. If you like words with musical notation, the words are also on the screen. Would you rise in body or spirit, and let's sing about how we can get there. 1020, Wo Ya Ya. Thank you, friends. Thank you to Joe. Thank you to Rita. Thank you to you all to being here. Just take these words of blessing with you. I say them all the time, and I really need you to hear them. Because one of the things I found most helpful when you're in a theological term, dumpster fire, is to remind people that they are beloved. So if you have had your heart broken by me or anyone, I hear you. I feel you. And if it was me, I am sorry. But I also need you to know that you are loved and worthy of love. You are loved and worthy of love. You are loved and worthy of love. And I love you. And if nothing else rings true from this service, please hear these words. I love you. And I need you. So I'm so grateful for you all for being here in this place. May we go forth and change the world. Heaven knows how we will get there, but I know we will. Amen. Thank you, friends. Have a good week.
I'm sorry, all. I had to be on the phone about things. How is everybody? We'll listen to McKinley.